So, let's begin by just settling in, getting mind and body in the same place. And then we want to start with our bodhicitta motivation. Bodhicitta is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And bodhi means awakened or enlightened, and citta means the mind and heart together. So, bodhicitta is literally enlightened mind heart, but it means kind of understanding or having compassion for really the suffering of beings, and then understanding the cause of that is this fundamental ignorance that we are kind of saddled with as sentient being, big man sentient being, and that the way to remove that cause of suffering is by attaining enlightenment. So that's the kind of logical progression there. Um, so out of compassion, we form this strong wish to attain enlightenment, to remove the suffering of ourselves and others, along with the determination to do whatever is necessary to achieve that goal. So if that seems a bit too big or whatever, or it's not in your belief system, that's fine. If we can at least think, may the time we spend together today benefit, not only myself, but others as well. Okay. Ansando semgara shiri sen pemakara jibani shuna sosunabna tadenga saso. Katena manam la so de omi chiki and kipo jone dusum senge kunging one. Ransem chugun sun to zepa, so in a me shall also de. Okay. So we're going to approach Liz's question now. Luba says, hey, Luba, good morning. Luba says, Liz, your question is very open, cultivating open awareness and spaciousness of mind question. I think the answer is in the Eightfold Path. I start at one and go over them with meditation and Dharma talk. Um, okay, well, we'll see about that. So, all right, so let's go back. Cultivating open awareness and spaciousness of mind. So, awareness and spaciousness of mind are two very important and vital concepts in Buddhism, particularly in the Vajrayana path. Um, so when we talk about awareness, we cultivate awareness mostly through formal meditation. Okay. So there's a lot of different types of meditation that we can do. The most basic, I guess is an okay word, the most kind of fundamental, the foundational um, type of meditation is mindfulness of breathing. Okay. It's the first meditation taught by the Buddha, and it's the practice we'll be doing today. And it is meant to um, have us become aware of what's happening in our mind, what sort of are all the thoughts going through our mind, and not just what we're thinking or how we're feeling, but um, what are we doing? What are our actions in relation to that? And do we have control over those actions or not? Do we have a choice, or are we just acting? Are we just having like a knee-jerk reaction to these, many, many thoughts and emotions going through our mind? Okay. Um, so um, that's one thing. The other, as far as awareness and meditation is concerned, and like I said, mindfulness, a breathing practice, is just one of many types of meditation. But because it lays the groundwork for all other types of meditation, it really is a very important one. So the other is like when we do even mindfulness or breathing practice, we become aware of like the mind itself. Okay, we become aware of not just the thoughts that occur in the mind, but the nature of mind itself. Okay. um and kind of how these thoughts arise, why these thoughts arise, how we can and should relate to them. Okay. um we have a tendency, out of habit, out of ignorance, to very strongly identify with all of our thoughts and emotions. Okay, think like that's me. Even our language kind of mimics that, right? Or indicates that I am angry, I am hungry, I am um, in love, I am happy, whatever, right? We don't say like, my mind is experiencing happiness at the present moment, right? We feel like that's who we are, okay? And that's not who we are. And if we are um, reacting in that way or feeling that way, we're going to have a really hard time, right? Um, this is going to just keep us in this round of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death, otherwise known as samsara, okay, which is unhelpful, right? Um, and it's just nothing but suffering, essentially, or mostly suffering, let's say. Okay, so we need this awareness. Once we become, or as we become, let's say, increasingly aware of our own mind, how our own minds function, why we do what we do, etc., we at the same time kind of accidentally become more aware of others and their minds and their emotions and what they go through, right? Not because we gain some kind of clairvoyance, right? But because all of our minds kind of function more or less the same. It's not, I'm not saying, oh, it's just one mind, we're not talking in those terms, but I am saying that, my frustration, um, is the same as, Liz's frustration, right? But we might get frustrated by different things. We might get frustrated more or less often. We might have greater or lesser frustration, all of that. But frustration, the feeling of frustration is the same. Okay. Our minds function the same, like our arms and our hands function the same. It doesn't mean we all have the same hand. Okay. So as we become more intimate with the mind itself, our own mind, we're more aware of what others are also experiencing. In that awareness comes compassion because we start to see how much we're suffering from big things and small things and thoughts and emotions and anxiety and all this stuff. And that opens the door to having compassion for others. In addition, we have more awareness in general, so we're more aware of others. Normally, we're kind of going through life in this sort of cocoon, as Trungpa Rinpoche talks about it, right? Where just everything is about us. And it's really important to understand the distinction there, because we're not saying like, I like to use the word self-focused rather than self-centered, because self-centered automatically has this air of judgment about it, right? Oh, you're selfish, you're egotistical, what have you, right? Self-centered is just what we feel is normal. Of course, I'm going to care about my own needs. Of course, I'm going to care about, my own happiness, my own comfort, and all of that. There's nothing really wrong with that. It's just that in that process, we have a tendency to forget about others. Yeah, and that's the problem. And then we put ourselves first, and then, there's conflict and there's hurting and all that kind of stuff. All right. But as Liz asked about spaciousness of mind in connection with this word awareness, I don't think that's necessarily the kind of awareness that she's referring to. So when we talk about spaciousness of mind, um, we're talking about this kind of vast view, okay? Um, a, a sort of bird's eye view, right? You know, if you think about like the movies, yeah, where there's that point often in the movies where the camera zooms out and out and out and up and up and up, and you can see kind of the whole landscape. That's very rough analogy of kind of the spaciousness of mind. Our minds are so much more powerful and so much more um, limitless than we could even begin to imagine. All right. And we have this tendency to make our lives and our mind and our view extremely narrow, right? And we self-limit. Yeah. Whereas, like the teachers say anyway, that the nature of mind is extremely vast, luminous, uh, infused with compassion and this kind of thing. It's a really different view. So if we have trouble, as Liz said, or we struggle to cultivate these things, it's natural that that's a struggle. It's normal that that's a struggle. That's a huge thing. Okay. That's a really huge thing. We're not just talking about, I don't know, trying to memorize somebody's phone number. Okay. Um, uh, it's a natural function of the mind. And this is where the question came from Liz, because we were talking about this on Wednesday in class. Um, it's a this aspect of mind or this quality of mind is natural. It's not it's something everyone has. Okay. um, we're all imbued with this, but we don't see it. So it's not like you have to be Buddhist or you have to be doing a particular practice to access that, but there are practices that facilitate us accessing that um, quality of mind. Okay. And in class, I was talking about how sometimes our mind just sort of is goes directly to that state. All right. And I was talking about various things like, let's say that you're at the museum and you see this incredible work of art. Your mind just might stop in that moment and just ah, you're kind of just there and all your thoughts sort of just fall away. Or, I said, like, what, looking at the sky where there's no light pollution and you see the Milky Way and, or the Northern Lights or something, and there's a state of kind of awe in that, right? Or you hear a piece of music, or those are sort of positive things, but it can happen with other things too. I think it's Trumpa Rinpoche actually who gave this example in one of his texts about imagine that you go to work, whatever you normally do, and then you go home and you see that your front door is open, and so you walk inside and everything is gone. Someone has come and just robbed you blind. There's that moment where your mind stops before the panic, before you know calling the police or whatever it is, right? Your mind just that kind of shock is can bring us to that state also, where just all of the chatter and all of the um, stirring up, that we do of our mind just kind of falls away in that moment. Okay. Or when we hear that someone's going to die, or when we hear that we're going to die. Okay. So it's just part of the mind. But in Buddhism, there are practices to help us um, recognize that. Okay. And one of those practices, and let's do that today, is what I call alternating meditation. So that's where we spend a few moments focusing on the breath, with a particular posture, which I'll show you when we get there, and then a few moments just resting the mind. And we alternate between those two. And the teachers say that uh, if we're going to do this kind of practice of trying to rest in the nature of mind, it should be for a short period of time, many times. Okay. So it doesn't mean, like, for example, let's say that you determine you're going to practice for an hour. It doesn't mean you sit for 5 minutes trying to rest the mind and then you get up and do the dishes and come back. You can, practice it many times within one session. And this alternating meditation is one way of doing that. Or you can, practice it and then do some recitation of mantra or whatever practice you're doing and then go back to resting the mind like that. Okay. Um, so this kind of practice and other practices like it are like the more kind of direct um, practice or the direct um, method for that. But other practices will lead us there too. So if you do a sadhana practice, like the people in the dedicated practitioners group are doing, um, and like some other practices, almost every so if you're wondering what a sadhana is, it's like a series of prayers and mantras and visualizations that you do related to one particular figure. So like tomorrow at 11:30, we're going to be on Zoom doing the Buddha sadhana. And I don't think the dissolution is in there. I don't know why, but it's not. But anyway, if you want to join us for that, it's really beautiful. It's at 11:30. It's on Zoom. You can look in the description box below for the link to that and download the sadhana and also the mantras, and then you can find the link for that practice tomorrow at 11:30. So other practices that lead us there, but are not really taught as like direct practice there, are within the sadhana practice. So in every sadhana practice, there's kind of the development of the visualization. Okay, let's say we're visualizing Buddha, and then there's the dissolution. Okay, and that means like we don't do this in the sadhana, but I will just use this as an example from other sadhanas. So you have this whole visualization, let's say the Buddha, and a bunch of figures around the Buddha, whatever. And then all of that just like gradually dissolves into this, what they say, the central figure, which in this case would be the Buddha. Then maybe like the Buddha dissolves into you, and then like you dissolve into space, something like that. Okay. This is like step by step, kind of getting us to that point of resting in the nature of mind. Okay. Um, so that's just, few examples, but there are like practices, definitely practices that we can do. And usually, I mean, the most common is just doing those regular sadhana practices. That's why I tell the people who are doing the Nundro or who are doing the guru yoga practice that we do in dedicated practitioners group to pay attention to the dissolution and don't just to run by that and feel like, oh, I'm at the end of the sadhana, I'll just run past this, to take your time with that and really do it, because that's part of the practice of like realizing the nature of mind and this like spaciousness of mind. Okay. So I hope that was clear or at least helpful. And of course, more than happy to talk about that more in class. It's not a problem at all. Okay. Now let's see. So, hey, Lucy and Tess, hello. So now to Tim's question. Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad that it helped, Liz. Terrific. So Tim's question is, this week I saw news of attempts to use AI chatbots to teach and spread the Dharma and lead meditations. Do you feel this is a skillful way to experience and spread the Dharma? No, I do not. And here's why. Okay. Um, AI is extremely sus to begin with. Okay. Um, as we know, I mean, even in this stage, of course, it's the beginning stages, so there's going to be a lot of mistakes. But every day seems they get better and better, and they're just going to continue to improve. I am already having quite a hard time on um, Instagram determining like what is AI and what is not AI. It's really difficult. And I'm like following some accounts that teach it, right? So that I can learn to recognize it, but it's exhausting to even try to figure it out. So then you get into a situation where you have, you know, sources wherever they're getting their sources. We don't know where they're getting their sources. So it's totally unreliable is the main first point. Okay, totally, completely, 100% unreliable. All right, and if if you're relying on something that is gathering essentially random BS from all over the internet, if it's not a person that you can relate to, it's not a person who has their own experience, it's not a person that you can ask questions of and receive answers from. It's not a person. I know you can do that with AI, but it's not a person you can do that. In this case, why I think it's much more reliable to get a book written by a reliable teacher and use that book as a guidance, rather than this random thing. In addition, m- I was going to say this is an aside, but it's not really an aside. AI uses so many resources, particularly water, and our planet is already in peril, and AI is just adding to that at a magnitude uh, uh, unparalleled. And we who were from Cleveland, in case you are not part of this group, we're right on Lake Erie, and it's a threat to Lake Erie. It's a threat to the Great Lakes because they need so much water to run AI, and they need other forms of energy. And why? It's useless. It's mainly a tool to make wealthy people wealthier and to control the populace. So, the Dharma is already on shaky ground, right? As it is without AI. Okay. Um, because you have so many people out there who don't know what they're talking about and who are essentially charlatans. And, Tibetan Buddhism in particular has been something that's quite, you know, in fashion, chic, whatever. Uh, and so people take advantage of that, right? And they just spout BS and call it Buddhism so they can get money or so they can um, sleep around with their students or, you know, pump up their ego, all this kind of stuff. It's already in peril, and adding AI to that mess is just dragging it down even further. Say, leading meditation, I mean, again, like, why? You have so many other sources for leading meditation, you know like we on this channel, there's we have so many videos already of leading meditation. There's apps for leading meditation that were made by real people. There are other teachers who have recordings of leading meditation. So leading meditation, again, no need for AI. I just see it as dragging the Dharma down in the worst way, in the worst way. And people already are having such struggles determining um, authentic from inauthentic teachings and teachers and practices. You know, you have people like Deepak Chopra, for example, who's 100% charlatan, who likes to stick his face in every possible thing and call himself an expert. Oh, he's an expert at Buddhism. Oh, he's an expert at, I don't know, astronomy. Oh, he's an expert at yoga. Everything that has a panel, this person is on it. And he doesn't know anything. He knows nothing. Okay. But somehow he became a big figure. I think it was probably one of Oprah's. Um, demons she leashed upon the world, along with Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz and, you know, a bunch of other people that are essentially charlatans. Um, so, and then there's books that are out there that are just, wrong, just incorrect. They're wrong. So, um, and Western teachers and Tibetan teachers, who um, are charlatans. So it just we already have to be so careful to bring AI into this precarious situation. Uh, I mean, it's happening, right? You said that it's happening, so it's already happening, unfortunately. But even without AI, I always advise people to be extremely careful who they are getting the Dharma from. That to make sure that that person has a proper education, that they have a good motivation, that they actually know what they're talking about, that they have the best interest of others in that they have the best interest of others in mind and not just themselves. I mean, even in the traditional teachings, when they talk about forming, a relationship with a teacher and taking teachings from one, especially if you're being spiritually guided by someone, they advise examining that person for 12 years. Like, who has that kind of time? We don't have that kind of time, right? Especially if we're older like myself. We don't have this kind of time. But that is an indication in any case of how careful we need to be, right? And there's a whole list of like what we need to look for in a text called Words of My Perfect Teacher, but I'm sure it's in other texts as well, that talks about um, we should make sure that the teacher has compassion, that they have bodhicitta, that they actually know the teachings inside and out, that they, you know, a whole list of things, right? So we should examine the teacher, even if they seem totally legit. We should still examine them before we make any kind of big commitment to them. Until that point, absolutely, we should shop around. We should, see who we connect with the most, see who we trust, see who can, as Trump Rinpoche says, like, do they understand you? Because even you can have a totally authentic teacher who you just don't have a connection with, and like you don't maybe completely understand them and maybe they don't really get you. Like you should look at that, as a determination of who you follow as well. So, yeah, I'm sad to hear that actually. Um, I mean, the best case scenario, and I don't think it's going to happen that much, is that somebody comes in contact with it through AI and that makes them look for an authentic teacher. Hopefully that happens, but I doubt it because we are a society that likes things to come to us, you know, and doesn't really like to put in a lot of effort for things. And I see that all the time, in relation to the Dharma, that people kind of, you know, like the ideas, but don't want to put in the work. What? I have to, oh yeah, I'm supposed to meditate every day. Oh, do you know what Binaya? And I do that, I'm not innocent of that. I have to um, talk myself into it. I have to remember what is the value of meditation and what is the value of enlightenment and why am I doing this and you know how I want to help myself and I want to help others. And I know that practice is the way to do that, you know. And one last thing is why would we go to AI when we have enlightened teachers alive right now that we can go to? Our own teachers, Jigme Rinpoche, Shugo Wangyo Rinpoche, are two of the best and sort of most accomplished masters on the planet today. They're not the only ones. But even other lamas praise them as being so authentic and so good and all of that. Yeah. Then we have Zonsar Khyentse Rinpoche, we have Yongey Mingyu Rinpoche, we have the Dalai Lama, we have Sakya Trizin Rinpoche, like they're out there, you know? So we should go and look for them and do what we can to receive teachings from them, you know? Sometimes our teachers have like a Zoom teaching or Zoom transmission, and sometimes because of the time difference, because they're in France, sometimes is at 5 in the morning. And I know people don't get up for that. And it makes me so sad, because I'm like, oh my God, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing by not getting up for that, you know? I know that it's a pain in the butt to get up at 5 in the morning. I don't like it either, but I will do it for sure if it's a teaching or a transmission or whatever from our own teachers. Absolutely. It's nothing in comparison to what we receive for that. So AI is never going to give us that. Never in a million years. All right, let's see. Thank you. You can't form a connection with AI. Also, a really good point, Tim. Thank you. That was my initial instinct, but I appreciate your more experienced insights and you put it into better words than I could have. 100%. Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I hate AI. Anyway, I deal with my emotions around AI. All right. Okay, so let's meditate. Okay. Um, can you hear this dog snoring? Anybody? Can you put in the chat if you can hear her? Yes? No? Because I'll wake her up if you can hear her. So, you do? No. Okay, good. All right. So let's, terrific. Thank you. Okay, so let's begin. It's meditation. So I'm going to start with, you wish you could? Okay, here. Did you hear that? Yes. Snoring. Okay. All right, let's begin with meditation. So if you're sitting on the floor on your bed, just cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. Um, if you're sitting in a chair, just want your feet flat on the floor. Otherwise, all the instructions are the same. So we're going to start with just like a few minutes. No, I know, it's true. Um, Jim is saying sleeping animals are so relaxing and calming. It's true. So I get my mind back into the present moment. Okay. Okay. So if you're sitting on the bed or on the floor, just cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. If you're sitting on a chair, make sure both your feet are flat on the floor. Otherwise, all the instructions are the same. So your arms should be relaxed. Okay, your hands can be palms down on your knees or palms up like that in your lap or with your fingers on top and your thumbs touching like that. Back is straight. That's the main thing. Not tense, but straight. Shoulders should be back a little bit. Chin is tucked in a little bit because the back is straight, meaning the back of the neck is also straight. Mouth is closed but relaxed. Tongue resting on the roof of the mouth. Breathing through the nose. The eyes are half open, looking down 2 feet in front of you with a relaxed lowered gaze. So we're going to start with just straight ahead mindfulness or breathing practice, okay? So please begin that now. Just focus on the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. Now begin to count the breaths, counting either every in-breath or every out-breath for a total of 10 breaths. This helps us to recognize more quickly if we've gotten distracted. So as we're breathing, we're trying to just let the thoughts come and go, maintain a relaxed awareness of that sensation of the breath at the end of the nose. Okay. When we're counting the breaths, we realize more quickly if we've gotten distracted. So when we get distracted, just simply bring your mind back to the breath. That's the instruction. You get distracted, you bring it back. You get distracted, you bring it back. The counting, if you lose count, that means you got distracted. So it's not a big deal. This is what the practice is about. Just bring your mind back to the breath. If you get your 10 without distracting, without getting distracted, start again at 1. Okay. Well, let's begin that now. Okay, now we're going to move into the alternating meditation. So for this one, it's the same posture each time. So we for mindfulness breathing practice, we're going to put our hands in this position in our lap. Okay, not like this or anything else, just this. Okay, so we're going to start with that, and then when I say switch, we're going to put our hands palms down on the knees. Breathe through the mouth, and the eyes should be slightly upward. So if you look straight ahead and then you look up as much as you can, it's kind of the halfway point between those two. Okay. And then you're just letting the mind rest. And then I'll say switch. And you put your hands in this position in your lap. Mouth is closed, breathing through the nose. Eyes are lowered. Focus on the breath. Then I'll say switch again. You go back to palms down, breathing through the mouth, eyes slightly upward, resting the mind. I hope that's clear. Okay. So I will guide you, and I'll start with kind of more explanation and then slowly drop off the explanation so we can just do the practice without interruption. So we're going to begin with mindfulness of breathing. So please put your hands in this position. Okay. Mouth is closed, breathing through the nose, looking downwards, and then I'll say switch to go to the other. So please begin mindfulness of breathing now. Switch. Palms down on the knees, breathing through the mouth, eyes slightly upward, resting the mind. Switch. Hands like this in the lap. Mouth closed, breathing through the nose, eyes looking downward, focusing on the breath. Rest switch, palms down, breathing through the mouth, looking slightly upward, resting. Switch, mindfulness to breathing. Switch, palms down, breathing through the mouth, looking slightly upward, resting the mind. Switch, mindfulness to breathing, hands in this position, focusing on the breath, eyes down. switch. Resting the mind, palms down, mouth breathing through the mouth, eyes slightly upward. Just rest the mind. Okay. So I hope that's something out of that. We'll now say the closing prayers. You can download them through a link in the description box below, but I will share my screen anyway. Those who have not done that. All right. These are long life prayers for the Dalai Lama and our teachers. Kanri wawe koe shinkan su pendan de wa malu juene. Chene si won tenzing yam sui. Shape ke ka pa chu tengyu shi. Om swasti jigme kempe kalon yam paru. Kunkap se chen se puntawa. Nidra dung sound nung ke na vu cho. Se che gya we shaki dang su so. Om swasti se la gyam su chin la chen ju ne. And sin dak se gyu chu pema. Sun su na dre gyo ko ja de ne. Na chen den de she dun da ge sho. Lama kungan sampo soade, jodu kuse ringwa soade, trine tashin geba soade, lama dandre wa me pa chingi lo. Now this first one here we say once in English, once in Tibetan, remaining three just in English, and then the 100-syllable mantra. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. Sonandi tomche zipane, tone nepe janan ponche shin, kegana chi baron trupaye, sipe sole, drowa sho. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Ever absorbed in the display of divine forms and primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception in the state of divinities, mantras, and dharmakaya, may I, inseparable from the practice of the profound and secret great yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of one taste. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manubalaya Vajra Sattva Tenoba Tishtadrijo Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto me bhava soa siddhi me prayacha soa kam sucha me chitam shriyam kuru. Aha ha ha ho bhagavan soa tata gata vagama me munsa vadri bhava mahasamaya sattva. Okay, so before I let you go, there's a couple of announcements to make. First of all, thank you so much for joining us this morning or for watching the video later. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps to drive other people here. Make comments also is very helpful. It doesn't have to be anything profound. It can be just even one word is fine. Um, as I mentioned earlier, we are doing the Buddha Sadhana tomorrow, so that's at 11:30. You can find information at our website or in the description below. Let's see, we will be starting. We're starting the third session of Walking the Spiritual Path. If you want to join, you're more than welcome to join. It starts this Wednesday. You can look again on the website for all the information and registration for that. In April, we're starting, actually continuing our series, The Feminine Force in Buddhism. We'll be studying a text called Women of Wisdom, so look forward to that. Sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already. Make a donation if you can. We always need, unfortunately, we need money. We got to survive. So that's it for the things, but I did want to say, um, I'm fostering this dog, and so that means she's looking for a forever home. I'm fostering her through the Cuyahoga County Animal Shelter. Um, and so I just want to talk about her for a minute. If you want to go, it's fine. But if you're looking for a dog, I really recommend her. She's so sweet. She's really nice. She's well behaved, mostly well behaved. Okay, she does need some training still. Looked like she's been on the streets for a while. Um, I thought she was 8 years old, but she's only 4.5. So, can you get up? Can you get up? Come on, it's showtime. She doesn't, she doesn't want to get up. Come on, get up. No, she's too tired. Okay, so I will show you some other pictures since she's not being cooperative. Um, but she's a just snuggle bug. Um, she really she enjoys affection, sleeps with me in the bed. If you don't want to do that, I'm sure that you can, train her otherwise. Um, so I'll just pull up this album so you can have a look at her. What else do you want to know about her? Let's see. She's is afraid of strangers. So that would be something you need to work with her on. But really, she's quite good and kind of surprised. So I'll just run you through these pictures quickly. So that's her at the shelter. Hi, are you going to get up? She loves a belly rub. She loves looking at herself in the mirror and then an hour later deciding that's a stranger and start barking. So that's her little face. That's her looking in the fireplace. Same. That's her barking. You get the point. Again, the reflection, it's her sleeping. So as you can see, like she has some, they just think she was on the street. Because like the way that she behaves is as though she did have her people at one point, and she probably got lost and then just, had a rough life in the streets. She has jowls for days. Uh, what else can I say about her? She's a yoga aficionado. Um, yeah. So anyway, if you I was actually going to talk about her today, but maybe I'll save that for next week. So I have this, hang on, I know I made this mistake last time. I'm not going to try to fix it 'cause I'm already taking your time. Um, anyway, she was afraid of this boot shelter I have in the backyard. And, I decided to walk her up to it and she was just cowering behind me. So she does have some fear even of the Buddha. Um, Is that all I have in this? Yeah, so that's it. So you get a good idea of, who she is. So if you want to adopt her, she she's getting spayed on Thursday, this coming Thursday, and then right after that she'll be on the adoption floor at the Cuyahoga County Animal Shelter in Valley View, Ohio. So I recommend her. Um, she's a great dog. So think about it, or if you know anybody else who's looking for a dog, um, you know, you can recommend her. Um, and I'll put on my Facebook page. I'll probably put her in the newsletter too. And that's it. So thanks for considering her and sharing with your friends. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for again for joining. Careful out there if you're driving. It has started snowing again. So bye. Have a good weekend. Hope to see you